All right, Alex Reyes here, founder of Men's Victory Path, MVP, where we help men experience the fire, courage, the freedom of expression, and the fulfillment of purpose. Let's deal with that freedom of expression part. Um, Today, I've been at my desk, sitting here, just crunching numbers, doing a lot of business stuff, forecasting, and really mapping out financially the vision, right? Dealing with the numbers of things. As my mentor, Sean Callaghan says, you got the heart, you got the math, you got to make sure you deal with the math. That's where the accountability and the mechanics and everything of business building comes in. So that's important. But I got a phone call, and close friend of mine, one of my trusted members, his mom died, and he called me to tell me the difference that it made for him when my mom died and when she was dying, when she was in the hospital. And when I was sharing this stuff, not just publicly, but also I was setting up Zoom calls for support because I really felt like I needed it. And his mom, she was 86, just like my mom. And my mom died December 2019, as some of you know. So he called me to tell me that it helped we're doing some stuff recently, some coaching, some more personal support work to help him get through. But he said that also just the sharing of my journey back then while I was in it and while I was going through it, that made a big difference for him, that he could find a way through everything that he was going through as a result of that. And it really press something home for me around the importance of sharing our journeys. Because when we do that, we create space and, in a way, kind of give permission for other people to be able to not just see themselves in us and see us as a model, but to be who they need to be able to get through whatever it is they need to get through. And my mom's passing, it was a very difficult journey. There was a side of it that I didn't publicly reveal, but that some of my closest friends and members know about, because there was a whole other challenging situation involving it. It wasn't even her passing itself that was the most difficult. I'd been preparing for that for a while, but it was really the other stuff that came around it. Um, Share that some other time. But the point is that it's so incredibly important. And it even reminds me, one time, Gary V, Vaynerchuk, was being interviewed by a young dude. And what he said was something that I'll never forget, that in the end, people just want to know your journey. They want to hear your story. And the reason being is because we're so drawn in by stories. My last video was, I was talking about the movie Hugo. And the thing that really captured me about it was a beautifully told story, great movie all the way throughout. But there was a scene, maybe about three-quarters of the way in, where you got these two kids, maybe 11 to 13 years old, somewhere in there. And they fall onto this very mature subject matter of purpose. And they both gone through difficult circumstances. They lost their parents. But here they are, they're talking about something that even we adults often struggle with, and that's purpose, our why for things. And they still were able to see it through childlike eyes. And I thought that was very encouraging, because kids have a tendency of asking the why. And so when I got that phone call and he's letting me know the difference that it made for him and my sharing my journey back then, it became, obviously, I felt, like it was very rewarding for me to be able to do that. And even the recent calls that we had, but it reaffirmed for me why it's so incredibly important that we share our journeys. Even when we're in the thick of it, that might be the most important time to share it. That we're in the middle of it, it's really challenging, it's really hard, and you either find some public vehicle, bring some public authenticity to the table if you're good with that, or you have some close, trusted people that you know are going to seek to lift you up, not just give you unqualified advice or try to fix you or your situation, but actually genuinely try to lift you up. Because in the end, no matter what we go through, we may be having to make certain decisions alone. We may have to experience certain things specifically in the moment alone, but that doesn't mean that we're really fully going through it alone. And I think it's incredibly important that we have people around us. And we're living in a time in which I think close, trusted bonds, and I do this with men a lot, close, trusted, masculine bonds at the level of environment, as I speak of it in the purpose ladder. And the whole point is really to surround yourself with people that are going to hold you to a higher standard than you would otherwise hold yourself when you slip, because we're all going to slip due to internal reasons or due to external reasons, situations beyond our control, circumstances beyond our control. But what we do have 100% control over is our own effort, that we at least have that. How we perceive things, what we then decide to do, what we actually do, and how we do it. That we have 100% control over that. And in having 100% control over it, that means that we are fully 100% responsible. And in being responsible for it, bringing it back to the people around us, that means we're also going to have to be responsible for who we decide to listen to. And sometimes that requires some difficult decision making. Sometimes that means you may have to have confrontational conversations with people where they're showing up for you in a certain way that rubs you a certain, the wrong way. And you need to make sure that you're taking full responsibility and ownership of how you're showing up. But if another person doesn't wish to shift anything whatsoever, then it may not be a fit for you in your life anymore. And you might have to let go of certain relationships to make space for more meaningful relationships, for relationships that really lift you up when you're down. Because we're all going to go through stuff. We're still in a pandemic. We're still going through stuff to varying degrees, right? Different people at different levels and for different reasons and different situations. But we have this shared experience of a pandemic, and depending on where you live, social political upheaval. But there is still a decision that we each and every one of us get to make, and that's where we stand in the face of it all. I've said this to my members before, that no matter how difficult things get, hell, it could even seem like the world is burning or falling apart. You still get to decide where you stand. And that determines the decisions and the actions that you take. So the decisions that you make, the actions that you take, and all of the results and the consequences that come from that. So the message here is, when it comes to freedom of expression, because that's what I started with here, that I said I wanted to take that on. It's what we express and how we express it. That if we really do it from a heartfelt place, really coming from below the neck, that it could really have a meaningful impact for other people. And it was rewarding, and there's a level of pride that I have that it had that kind of an impact on others. And you never know the full extent sometimes when you share something publicly of the full extent of the impact that it will have, who it will touch, how it will touch them. Because, this stuff goes out and it's just all over the place throughout the airwaves. And there's so much that's out there getting the airtime these days that isn't really helpful, doesn't really serve us, doesn't help us to keep a sharper headspace or a healthy emotional state. If you got something to contribute, even if it's you just going through something difficult, that can do something, because it breathes this depth of humanity back out there for the rest of us. So message here when it comes to freedom of expression, it's not always to just be the cheerleader, with your pom-poms and trying to pump everybody up. Sometimes it's really just expressing the challenges that you're going through. Yeah, it's great to share what it is that you're up to. But equally important sometimes is sharing what you're up against, and that you may need some more empathetic ears or more empowering voices around you to help overcome whatever it is. So, to anyone having a hard time going through anything at all, especially with the state of things socially, politically speaking, and this pandemic and so on, whatever your personal challenges, just note there can be a light at the end of that tunnel. You may have to do some more digging in order to find it. And I was just interviewed yesterday, actually, and we started the whole thing with talking about suicide rates, particularly among men, because they're significantly higher for men than for women, even. And it's real easy to feel like you're surrounded by darkness. Keep digging for the light is ultimately the message here. And, what I shared on that interview was that I had a brother that died when I was 17, and that ultimately my work is an expression of what he gave to me. It's my paying it forward, creating environments and communities for men to be able to unload whatever they have to and to create and truly build the lives that they want, and to have those trusted masculine bonds that they need to be able to get through this world, through any and all challenges. And so, bringing it back to and closing out with freedom of expression, what you share has an impact, for better or for worse. And there are a lot of people on the airwaves these days where it's very common to just be dramatic, self-centered, and share things and express things that don't really serve. Think about your fellow human being. Think about the people around you. Think about the impact that your message has on other people. And be really mindful about what it is that you put out there. And maybe, just maybe, look in the mirror before looking at the screen. Take a look at that person in the mirror. And is that a person that you're proud of? And if so, why? What have you really got to bring to the table? And if not much, perhaps share that. That whatever it is, you share it honestly, openly, authentically. And you bring some public authenticity to the table, because I think ultimately that's really what we're really starving for anyway, is that experience, that depth of humanity. Because when you look in the mirror and you're able to bring something forth that's real and genuine, then publicly, it lets other people see themselves in you in a more positive light. So just wanted to share that. That's something that's been present for me. Thank you so much for listening if you made it this far. And always remember, stay engaged.